Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Lucid, and we're jumping back into our Let's Play with Late Age Mictlan. It's turn 27, and let's see what's happening. For those of you who don't recall, from the last episode, we are going to be diving inside of one of Ulm's forts, and this really is just a play out of a bad event that Ulm had that trapped his army inside a fort, and we are now fully taking advantage of that by hopefully storming this fort successfully, though we'll see. I'm going to start with Diplo, and then we'll get down to the events. I think there's nothing so exciting in the battle events and such that we can't wait a little bit. So a message from Satis. Greetings, Mictlan. Our scouts have left your land, so I do not know if you're tied up in a war right now, but if not and you're looking for someone to strike, Pangea has broken the ceasefire with the sneak attack and death drop, and their pretender god is with them. With their army to the southern border, this may be a prime time to strike. So Satis is requesting help against Pangea. A message from Midgard. Can you confirm we have a 1 month nap or not? Unsure, can't remember. Actually, I don't think I respond to this. So a message from Midgard again. As we feared, we can't beat down Ulm's fortress this month. We must go after Man's armies before he gets more. This is going to be a big fight. We urge you to keep pressure on Man and Ulm and not give them time to recover. I don't think he knows that I'm not fighting Man. Which is fine, but yeah. If Midgard fails, don't let it be for nothing. Maybe you worried Vikings, you after war's over, if the Vikings still alive. We tell you we not attack you within 1 month warning, and ask for me the same. We got back lands now from Avalon, but knows that Ulm is sacred like babies, and still not takes back manure field that we've conquered. Okay, so anyway, he's attacking Man. And a message from Utgard. LA Man is strong indeed, though I haven't seen major battles yet. Only small groups of sacreds, precision plus flaming weapons. In my humble opinion, not a great use of resources to spam sacreds, but hilarious at Construction 6 with Bows of War. He's taking territory from Midgard, but apparently Midgard's main forces are far from my border, so I'm unlikely to see their true strength. I don't think I read any of these when I was actually playing this turn. Also, elves aren't seeing anything anyways. However, Midgard has very few friends, it seems, and I'm considering taking a bite out of him as well. I don't want to have a border with Man unless I do so anyways. Given Man's earlier Diplo, I don't blame you for keeping some forces on the border with him. In other news, Pangea and Satis have just started a war, so 2 fronts to keep an eye on. Okay. So that is all actually quite good. Let's see what messages I send back out in a response. To Satis, I say, nice victory against the horse people, so we'll watch that. That was this turn. Do you need death gems? I can trade them for nature gems. Ulm has a lot of vampires running around already. Killing them just means fighting them later. We'll let you know how our battle with him goes. To Utgard, I say, troops on your border just trying to catch Ulmish raiders. And then I send him another message, and by raiders I mean 8 immortal vampires running around. I tell myself that's okay because at least the vampires aren't blood hunting. And then to Pythium I say, what's your situation with Utgard? I know he wanted that Midgard throne. He has an enormous army, so be careful. Okay, so that's my outgoing Diplo. The thing I didn't send and I should have sent was that Midgard and I have a nap 1, which I'm okay with. So anyway, we are summoning more Jaguar Fiends, or Axolotls. We get probably about 60-something Blood Slaves. And now for the battles. So Ulm is attacking me here. He's moving his Doomstack over towards the fort like I thought he would. And I had 10 PD here just from before, when I caught his little raiders. And so they're going to die. They might kill some wolves, which will be okay. Yeah, I think we killed some wolves. 14, not really worth the PD, but could not be avoided. We are attacking Ulm. I forget what province this is. We'll go look. But anyway, it's a bunch of PD versus Sacreds. We're going to just murder them. Oh, I know what this is. This is the province right next to the fort we're storming, where basically I was just taking it back from him after he put vampires there. So we take that. He is attacking me here. That's probably... Okay, so he combined all the vampires to attack me. And this was my throne. Okay. Kind of glad I took my sacreds out. I don't know if they could kill this many skeletons. Not 10. 10 jaguars, I don't think so. So I'm kind of glad I took them out. They probably would have died. We have a battle here where we are attacking Ulm. And this is the little swamp province that has a blood site in it. We take that. He attacks us here with the scout, but we have enough PD. So his scout is actually just going to retreat. He was checking to make sure I put PD in it. Otherwise, he could have taken it potentially. But I'm not going to fall for that. I always put at least 1 PD. So like one of the things I try to check every turn. Okay. Got 2 squares blessed up. Okay, all of them are blessed. That's nice. And this is actually, we're moving this army on top of one of Ulm's forts. So this is his fort PD. And yeah, we successfully take that. No losses. There's a big battle, and you saw my outgoing message. This is a big battle between Cetis and Pangaea, and we'll take a good look at this. So, on this side, we have a bunch of dudes, of Cetis's, with some mage support. So he's got some Sauromancers, which are pretty good. Or no, the Reborns, which are death... They're death 2, right? Yeah, they're all death 2. So they're pretty good. Some of them are Fire 1, which these guys just cast Banefire, which is not as good, or like Banefire darts. And usually the Fire ones you just want to keep in the lab. But anyway, not sure what he's going to do. On Pangaea's side, we actually see the Pangaean Pretender, which is this Green Death, the Carrion Dragon, as well as a bunch of Centaurs. And these guys, I think, are going to be communioning up. And then he has a kind of light Centaur army, which it's kind of interesting. I don't know what the play here is going to be, but let's watch. I don't know what he's going to do with the communion. So we've got Horde of Skeletons on this side. These guys communioned up. Okay, we've got Body Ethereal, which I think is going to go on the dragon. Yeah, so the dragon is now ethereal with elemental fortitude and invulnerability 25. So I guess he cast invulnerability, which means Pangaea is very high in alteration. But being high, he is not casting mass protection or anything, which you kind of expect Pangaea to cast. And he's got his Minotaurs in the middle, kind of trampling things, but they're going to be taking a lot of damage. Gifts of Heaven coming down, interesting. So that is something that late age Pangaea is capable of with these guys. The Earth Astral randoms can cast that. Can probably expect more of that. And it looks like, even though these Centaurs are really tough, you know, they've got 20 protection, which is kind of huge. These Falchineers are actually pretty killy. With 2 18 damage attacks, they can make it through 20 protection. Though they're not going to be killing them quickly. They are just kind of grinding them down. And the Centaurs themselves are actually not that killy. The Falchineers actually do more damage than the Centaurs do. And the Falchineers have armor themselves. They have 14 armor. Or wait, 15 armor. So, probably unit for unit, the Centaurs are going to trade better against the Falchineers. Just because, like, these guys on average do a little bit more damage than these guys have protection. But not much more. So it's actually kind of just an even trade. And if the Centaurs were going to win on their own, they really would need to come with more power. This is not enough. Like, more troops. Now, this guy actually is probably kitted enough. Like, his protection against mundane is 25. and also being ethereal. Is he regenerating? No. If he casts personal regen, which I think this guy can cast, I'm not sure if it works on undead, but it's possible that it would have been better if this guy was just a super combatant running in. But there's some dangerous things like decay getting thrown out. The Skeleспam, he definitely wouldn't be able to kill Skelespam faster, but the problem now is he's retreating because his army died. And he didn't really get into combat before they died, so he was kind of just a waste. I don't know how he would have done as a super combatant, but it was probably better than whatever they did here. Now the question is, can he escape? And he got paralyzed from that holy word. But you can see they have real trouble hitting him. Now, a lot of Satis's army has run away, which is better than what happened with Pangaea, because most of Pangaea's army died. And then, importantly, Satis is going to get Pangaea's whole mage corps, and that is important. Because these guys, I think, are pretty expensive. We'll look after the battle and see how much they cost, but they're all going to die. We're not going to sit there and watch all of that. So if we look at the net effect, they lost, I think these were mercenaries, the Pikeneers, so that's not really that important. He lost 45 Falchineers, which was significant. They're kind of expensive units at 13 gold. So probably like $600 of Falchineers. And then some kind of chaff, actually. That's about it. On Pangaea's side, he lost 6 of his sages, which is a lot. That's almost 600 gold right there. He lost all these guys who are pretty expensive, or 28 of them. And then the ones who retreated, probably a lot of them are lost. But yeah, this is... Yeah, about 1,000 gold of cataphracts. And then like another 400 gold, 450 gold of minotaurs. And then some satyrs. This was a pretty devastating loss for Pangaea. So that's fine. I don't really care who wins this conflict, as long as it's costly for both of them. That's kind of the only thing I want. And for them not to attack me. But anyway, it looks like it's really turning in the way of Satis, and I thought it was kind of going to go for Pangaea, but Satis just brought more to that fight, and therefore won. And then finally we have a battle inside the fortress with Ulm, and it's our medium-sized, large-medium army of Jaguar Warriors and Eagles. And so the Jaguar Warriors run in and basically just kill everybody right away. Did we lose anything? We didn't lose anything, which is good. We could have been unlucky and had one of the random arrows hit one of our mages, but it did not. And we killed a fair amount of stuff, actually. The PD was actually only 6 or 7 units. A lot of these were here, just part of Ulm's army. And so he's got a fortune teller, and then an illuminated one. And so getting 2 mages is actually kind of nice. He definitely could have moved the illuminated one out since they're stealthy, but he chose to have them fight, so that was probably a mistake. And the rangers are actually stealthy too, so he probably could have moved them out rather than fight. If he put them on the illuminated one, he could have gotten them out, which is probably what I would have done. The fortune teller would have been in trouble. They would have had to break siege and retreat. But yeah, we'll take it as an offering to the sun god. And we are well on our way to, it looks like winning this thing against Ulm, but so far it's been a bunch of small victories, as well as some trading, raiding with them. Okay. We also catch some of Ulm's scouts, which I presume we're catching these guys, and he's looking to see what kind of PD we have so he can hit me with his vampires. He needs a scout network to figure out where to raid. So we've got a lot going on this turn, and this is actually a really important turn. So you can see he moved this army as we predicted this way. And he's probably thinking, okay, you got lucky with this event, and that delayed this main army enough where you can take this fort, but I'm going to take it right back from you because I've got this big, scary army. And this is the trap, because we are going to do or utilize one of the Mictlan units, which I really love. I love nations that have a lot of mobility, and that's kind of my gripe playing Mictlan so far, is I'm so immobile. It's really hard to respond to kind of diplomatic chaos. Like, Ulm attacks me, I don't have enough time to get my army in position, or Man attacks me. It's really hard moving my army around. But my mages are very mobile in the terms of these Nahuli, or the turkeys. We put them in turkey form, and they can fly, and they can go 2 provinces away through enemies. In friendly provinces, they can go 3 provinces away. So they're very mobile. So this is the trap, and I actually got... I was pretty excited when I played this turn, which is only like last turn ago. So I'm actually 1 turn ahead of this in the current game, which for me, I'm going to, right after this, record the next episode. But for you, you'll have to wait a little bit. But playing this turn was pretty exciting because I have a huge army that's coming in. I mean, this is an enormous army. I mean, it's even bigger. He's got tons of archers who are really good, and tons of these heavy cav, which are pretty solid. I just looked, they've got 23 protection. That's ridiculous. And then decay weapons, which basically means if my humans get hit by it, they're dead. So yeah, anyway, this huge doom stack. Let's look at exactly how many there are. Yeah, 350. Or 330. So an enormous army. The army I have here is nowhere near as big. It's just, yeah, right at 110, including some of my slave chaff. I mean, without my slave chaff, which is close to worthless, it's only about 80 that I have here. Plus, I have another basically 50 units here. So combining them, I only have 80, 50, 130 good units. And then I've also got these 10 units up here. So 140 good units. So it's 140 units versus 350. And yeah. So the stakes are very high. And I have some options here. So I could choose to go and move this way and just have his army follow behind me and chase me. But the problem with that is I may not be able to 1-turn crack this fort. If I don't 1-turn crack this fort, then assuming he stays and tries to actually storm this fort, it wouldn't even be an even trade. I would just have to move off. It's basically a losing proposition to keep running from this army. And I'm never going to win against Ulm until I can take this off the board. So I got to get this army off the board. But it's very high stakes, and in some ways the odds are stacked against me because my guys do not do that great against archers because I'm kind of low protection. Once I get mass protection, which I do not have yet, but I'll have in a few turns, it will be different. But for now, I'm kind of pretty weak against archers. And yeah. Yeah, I'm basically just, it's going to be tricky. But the thing I have going for me, and that he does not know, is I have a ton of mages I can move in. Because I can move all of my turkeys, which I have in these different provinces, and have them fly into position. And then they can do some interesting things. So let's go through the script that I have. And this is really the guts of laying the trap. And I'm going to be using a lot of things that I just got in Alteration that you haven't really seen me use yet. And this is my formation. So I'm trying to exploit a few things. If we looked at Ulm's battle formation here, he's got all his dudes positioned at the very back. The heavy cav are on hold in attack, and that is mostly to try to catch my flyers as they jump into the back. He's got one heavy cav group, which is not, right? This guy's going to kind of sit here. These guys are going to be positioned back probably to try to catch my flyers. But there's a few weaknesses. One is his commanders are back here towards the back, which is not necessarily great. But the other thing is these guys, I think they're on fire closest, because if we look at where they're hitting, assuming these are a bunch of different squads, they're not hitting like a random target, because if some of them had targeted the archers, they would fire here at the back. I think they're on fire closest. So what I'm going to try to take advantage of in this is, because they're on fire closest, they will see they have some targets in front, and because there are some targets, and they are on a fire closest command, they will target the closest targets. So they will not, hopefully, hit my back lines while I go through a buff-up cycle with all of their crossbows. So that is the first thing. We're trying to put arrow decoys up in the front. Now, he can get around this if they're not on fire closest, they're just on like fire random. Some of them will target my backlines and hit those, and that will be unfortunate. So this is the first part of the plan. The second part is we have these turkeys about 4 squares away, and they are going to be doing a few things. We're going to have some of them on the first turn cast Swarm, and that will make a few of the insects which will run forward and hopefully soak up some of the heavy cav charge. These ones on the edge are going to cast Swarm first turn, and Swarm is basically going to give me a bunch of insects that do some armor negating damage. But mostly they're there to just tie up the enemy while other things hit them. Some of the insects it summons fly, a small portion of them. Most of them are going to just scurry across the battlefield. And I hope that the ones, at least when I cast Swarm at the beginning, these first swarms will hopefully get in front of my jaguars and make contact first. These later swarms, probably only the flying insects will make contact because my quickened jaguars will be so far in front of them. Now, I thought about potentially putting these guys in front, and they could cast wooden warriors aimed back here and hit them, and then hopefully the swarms would be farther in front. But with that many archers, I was really worried about them getting hit by arrows. So I wanted to put them behind where they would be a little bit safer. I think this is pretty close to the formation I had them in. Now, but we have a lot of them, right? So some of these guys are doing swarms. Some of these guys are doing wooden warriors. And yeah. And the wooden warriors is going to go all over my jaguars and then all over my birds or my flying contingent. You can see I have 2 squads, one 40 here and one is 25 here. And they're both on top of each other and they're just on hold and attack. And there's a few things that are going to be happening. One is we're going to have wooden warriors going, like I said, on both of these, the jaguars and my flying contingent. I've got my King of Rain here in the middle. He is going to be doing Divine Blessing to get all my sacreds buffed up turn 1. Then Wave Warriors, which is going to give them Blunt, Pierce, and Slash resistance at the cost of some strength and movement speed, which is fine, especially on my flyers. On my jaguars, I care more about the movement speed. Then I'm going to be doing Reinvigoration, which will get rid of all my fatigue, and then Summon Imps. And he's got a fair amount of Blood Slaves on him. Then, like this guy who's coming in, who's also a Blood Mage, he is positioned to be right next to the King of Water, or King of Rain, and that means he can use Blood Slaves, even though I don't have any on him. I couldn't load him up because he wasn't at a lab. But because he's adjacent to him, or on the same tile, he can actually use Blood Slaves that guy has. So he's going to do Wooden Warriors, turn 1, and then Bloodlust. The reason is Wooden Warriors is going to help protect against arrows, which is something I want to do immediately. Bloodlust, I'm not going to have anybody making melee contact right away, so it can wait a turn or two. Then Reinvigoration, then Swarm. And again, Swarm in the back. A lot of the ground bugs aren't going to do anything, but the flying bugs will jump in there and tie up the enemy while my very killy sacreds move into position. And you can see down here, all these guys are casting Wooden Warriors, Swarm. This guy is going to be getting off a few more swarms early, rather than kind of waiting later. And I don't know what kind of coverage I'm going to get on Wooden Warriors. I'm expecting I get about half of my sacreds, at least, with them. It's an area of effect 5. So in theory, like if it was perfect, it could get 3 Jaguar Warriors per square, and it could get 5 squares, so it could get 15 15 units per cast. And I mean, rough math, I should be able to cover the whole battlefield, but a lot of it's going to miss because not all the squares are going to hit. Yeah. So anyway, and some of it's going to hit bugs and all other sorts of things, but that's all fine. It's going to be enough that even if I lose, which I think is unlikely, even if I lose like most of my sacreds, I'm going to make so many bugs that we're going to kill everything. But that is it. The other thing I have coming in is I have two of these Mictlan priests, and they are basically just going to be summoning imps. And we've got 4 slaves on them, so they can do summon imps, reinvigoration, then summon imps twice, and then they're going to be fatigued out. And basically this is a way to put 15 imps on the field, and those guys are just going to tie up the archers and give them other things to do aside from killing my sacreds. So one way to think about it is I'm spending all of these nature gems, which is not a trivial amount at all. I'm spending all these nature gems and blood slaves to buy sacred units. And by buy sacred units, I mean to keep my sacred units from dying. I'm giving them other targets to hit aside from my sacreds, while hopefully I kill everything. Now, what makes this so good is that if I were Ulm, I would probably think this is an easy fight that I'm going to walk into and just win. The second thing that makes it good is I have this fort locked down, so I don't have to worry about much of his... I don't have to worry about mages showing up that I didn't expect. So, and I know this army does not have a lot of mage support, so I'm not worried about Iron Blizzard or other things like that. There's almost no mage support. So, there's a ton of things that make this good. The other thing that makes it good is I'm almost positive he's going to move here on top of this fort. I have almost no doubt. Because this is a big doom stack. I've been running from him. Everything would indicate that I'm probably going to either continue to run or to dodge him, or that he thinks he's going to win this fight. He also doesn't have mage support, like I was saying. And I have the ability to bring in a ton of mage support. Now, he could, for example, bring in vampires. And, if they filled the field with 100 extra undead, that could be the difference between me winning and losing. So, that is the only kind of mage support he can fly in. But these vampires are down here, and I think this is most of his vampires, and they, I do not believe, can make it back. They might be able to go 3 provinces if 2 of them are friendly. I'm not sure. We can kind of look. I'm not sure what their map movement is. 22. It's possible. I don't really know the math. Let's see. I don't know the math. It's totally possible. I don't know. If he brought all the vampires... and maybe one from his capital, so they had a bunch of slaves and they could get into a communion and they could add 200 undead at the beginning of the fight or something like that. Maybe that would be enough to win it. But, yeah, I don't know. So, the thing that makes this so good, and why it's such a good trap, is he's expecting to win, and because I am so certain of his move, I have no problem doing a very high commitment of mages. If he could move in like 6 different places, I'd be pretty hesitant, especially with my very mediocre research, to commit so many mages from a fight. I'm basically taking almost all my researchers and I'm moving them in. And I really would not want to do this unless I was pretty sure there was going to be a fight. So, yeah. So that's basically what we have set up over here. The other thing that I want to do, and my other objective for this turn, is these freaking vampires. They're taking a bunch of my stuff, and I don't like it. So we're going to try to catch them. Now, here's how we're going to do it. If you want to catch raiders, you have to asymmetrically invest more than they do, almost always. So we're going to be... If he moves up here, then there's going to be a fight with these jaguars, and I'm kind of okay with that, because I think they're out of blood slaves. So we're going to move jaguars from here, and then we're going to move other dudes here, and this will be enough to kill them. with these guys on hold and attack rear, we're blessing hopefully everybody with these two guys, and then summon imps. That will be enough to kill them if they stay behind. Then we've got these guys who are coming in. We're doing Divine Blessing and Wooden Warriors. This will be enough to kill them if they move the vampires south. If they move the vampires 2 things south down to here, we're moving these guys in. So you can see we're starting to kind of have a lot of sacreds. And these guys will definitely be able to kill him if they move the vampires here. So we've got 3 provinces which we're going to kill if he has vampires in it. This province, however, will be mostly undefended, especially with only 1 PD. We're not taking this one back. The other thing is we have a lot of our forts we are also moving patrolling. Like, we're moving and patrolling here with a bunch of vampires, and with a bunch of jaguars, which would be enough to kill vampires. Here we do not have enough. My capital actually would be, like, he probably could take my capital if he moved all 8 vampires here. I don't have anybody patrolling, but I don't really expect him to do that. Here I also have enough dudes where I could probably survive an attack. We've got our Site Searcher coming in, and then we've got our these dudes here on hold and attack. This guy can also do Divine Blessing, so kind of good. He's going to be stationed here right in the middle with all of my jaguars. So he's going to spam out Wooden Warriors first, and then Divine Blessing. And against vampires who are going to be doing Skelly spamming, I'm not really worried about like archers or something sniping him out of the middle of my jaguars, so that's fine. Yeah, so you can see we're doing pretty massive measures to catch his raiders. And now catching them, they're just going to respawn in his cap, but hopefully, they'll get afflicted and some other things. The other thing I could do that I'm not really doing, because I have almost all my Nahuli committed up this way, is I could try to curse them, and then they get so afflicted when I kill them, they're not really worth much. But we're not doing that. So that is basically it. We're setting up tons of little vampire traps. We're taking this back from them. We are doing a massive trap here, and hopefully next turn he's going to move here and we'll have a big battle, and it's going to be a huge battle. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, if I lose this army too, it's going to be such a high stakes battle. He's doom stacking up, so I've doom stacked in response, or I'm doom stacking now anyway, and we'll see what happens. Some other things just to talk about. I think, I'm trying to see if I'm forging anything. No, I think I've kind of made more items. I've made some more Sanguine Dowsing Rods. I think I might be making 1 or 2 more this turn, but probably not too many. For research priorities, I'm getting Thaumaturgy 1, and that's just so that I can do Curse if I want to. Because that is one of the ways to get the vampires all afflicted up. So we're making a pit stop at Thaumaturgy 1, then we're continuing up on Alteration. Once I have Alteration, I'm almost sure I want to go higher on Blood Magic. Now, the thing is, I have a huge death income, but I have no way to spend it. I thought about Empowering, but as soon as I get Blood 6, that breaks me into Death. This is a Death Mage also, but you have to have Death to get her, and I have no Death Mage yet. So I basically have to go all the way to 6 to get broken into Death. But I think that's my next priority, because then I can start doing things with those Death Gems, like turning them into Banelords or something, once I get, like, Conjuration, let's say. So, not totally sure, but anyway, that is the plan for the moment. The only thing that sucks about going up to Blood 6 is it doesn't quite get me high enough to do Reign of Jaguars. But I don't know if I'm going to get to this game. I would really love to have it, but my research economy is kind of too shit at the moment. And anyway, I think that is it for this turn. So I hope you are stoked for the next turn to see how this goes. And with that, I will see you next time.